Please rise for the singing of the national anthem. Sessions called to order.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupit, di ka masisingil. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong paghaw, may nilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagliliglig. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng waraming pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga api at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Madam Speaker, the roll call shows that 185 members responded to the call.
With 185 members responding to the call, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Reference of business, bills on first reading. House Bill number 11311, strengthening the Department of National Defense proper, by Representatives Malapitan and Romulo.
To the Committee on National Defense and Security.
House Bill number 11312, establishing the Linangan ng Likhang Bayan Institute for Living Traditions to ensure the protection, promotion, and development of the country's communal traditions, by Representative Legarda.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill number 11313, providing for the establishment of local study centers in state universities and colleges throughout the Philippines, by Representative Legarda.
To the Committee on Iron Technical Education.
House Bill number 11314, providing for the Magna Carta of Waste Workers, by Representative Legarda.
To the Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill number 11315, modifying and expanding the composition of the Board of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, mandating the establishment and operation of cultural facilities and regional offices therefore, by Representative Legarda.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
Message from the President. Veto message dated December 23, 2024 of President Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr. on Senate Bill 2514 and House Bill 8468 on the proposed Philippine National Games Act.
To the Committee on Rules.
Messages from the Senate. Message dated January 20, 2025, informing the House of Representatives that on even date, the Senate passed Senate Bill 2837 on the proposed extension of corporate term of the Power Sector Assets and Liabilities Management Corporation, in which it requests the concurrence of the House.
To the Committee on Energy.
Message dated January 20, 2025, informing the House that on even date, the Senate passed with amendments House Bill 10841 on the proposed revised Philippine Coast Guard law, in which it requests the concurrence of the House.
To the Committee on Transportation. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, may we please acknowledge the guests of Honorable Chervil Chinky Beatrix Luistro. They are visitors from the municipality of San Pascual, Batangas. From the Batangas Barsitarian, we have Paul Michael B. Maaño, Ruel Fruelda, Raniel Marasigan, Pedro Asi, Christian Patenia, Kenneth Uvina, Alvin Hill Ilagan, Dennis Magbuhos, Jimbo Aala, Bernard Alan Garcia, John Lloyd Basilan, Sildrich Pontiliar, Eric Ilagan, Alexis Ivan M. Albotra, Rusty M. Kakal. From the Triskelion GT San Pascual Executive Council, Bino Agot, Jeffrey Morales, Jan Robles, Edmond Ilaw, Aljun Ricabo, Nico Cusi, Domon Velasquez, Enriel Pucci, Alien Milier Saligaw, Jan Eres Jumaday, Giancarlo San Juan, Edgar Pascua, Raiden Rufon, Giancarlo Llanero, and Mark Vincent Adame. The district staff, Juni Arellano, Adula Alduber, and Mark J. Hernandez.
To the guests of the Honorable Attorney Chervil Jinky Beatrix R. Luistro from the 2nd District of Batangas, her guests from the Municipality of San Pascual, Batangas, and Triskelion GT San Pascual Executive Council, welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, under the calendar of business for the day, I move that we consider House Bill number 11287 under Committee Report number 1335 and may request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the said bill.
The Secretary General is directed to read the title of House Bill 11287.
House Bill number 11287, an act fixing the term of office of barangay and sangguniang kabataan officials and changing the term of office from 3 years to 6 years, amending for the purpose sections 42 and 43 of Republic Act Number 7160, otherwise known as the Local Government Code of 1991 as amended.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we open the period of sponsorship and debate.
There's a motion to open the period of sponsorship and debate. Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that the Vice Chairperson of the Committee on Local Government, the Honorable Arnan C. Panaligan, be recognized to begin sponsorship of the said measure.
The Honorable Arnan C. Panaligan from the 1st District of Oriental Mindoro is recognized for his sponsorship.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, fellow members of the House of Representatives, ladies and gentlemen, as Vice Chair of the House Committee on Local Governments and Chair of the Committee's Technical Working Group, I have the honor of sponsoring on the plenary House Bill number 11287, which is a substitute bill of 18 House bills, the purpose of which is to fix the term of office of barangay and sangguniang kabataan officials and changing their term of office, amending for the purpose sections 42 and 43 of Republic Act Number 7160, otherwise known as the Local Government Code of 1991 as amended. The said bills were thoroughly discussed at the committee level and at the technical working group. We invited resource persons from various relevant agencies to hear their views regarding the proposed legislation, such as the Liga ng mga Barangay, the National Youth Commission, the Sangguniang Kabataan National Federation, the various local government leagues, the Department of the Interior and Local Governments, and the Commission on Elections. After the committee and TWG meetings, we came up with a substitute bill, the one before us today at the plenary, and the corresponding committee report. The salient features of the substitute bill are as follows. Number one, the term of office of barangay and sangguniang kabataan officials shall be 6 years. Number two, the election of the barangay and sangguniang kabataan officials shall be held on the second Monday of May, beginning in the year 2029. Number three, the term of office of barangay officials shall be a maximum of 2 consecutive terms. And number four, the term of office of sangguniang kabataan officials shall not be more than 1 term. I want to stress, Madam Speaker, that by fixing the term of office of the barangay and sangguniang kabataan officials to 6 years, their election will never coincide with national and local elections. In so doing, we will be able to prevent and avoid the holding of 2 elections in a single year, thus minimizing huge budgetary expenses and also reducing too much politicking that happens in case of frequent elections or political exercises at short intervals. The substitute bill also moved the conduct of the barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections to May from October upon the recommendation of the Commission on Elections. There is practical wisdom in doing so. October is a typhoon season. Just last October, we experienced 4 typhoons in a single month. School buildings are usually converted into evacuation centers during typhoons. Thus, the conduct of elections on that period might interfere with disaster response measures of the local government units. Furthermore, the summer months coincide with the school break when the classrooms would be available for the polling exercise. And our school teachers are free to act as election officers. A longer term for barangay and sangguniang kabataan officials would also have salutary benefits. The barangays serve as the basic political unit in our scheme of government. The barangays are the primary planning and implementing unit of the government. They are at the front line in service delivery, peace and order maintenance, disaster mitigation and response, environmental management, and other vital governmental functions. If the barangay officials will be given a longer term of office, we can develop a core of well-trained, well-experienced, and skilled leaders at the grassroots level, free from the pressures and vagaries of constant politicking. The barangay officials can focus on their responsibilities as community leaders and promote the welfare of their constituents without being distracted by electoral considerations. By fixing the term of barangay officials and Sangguniang Kabataan officials to 6 years, we will also obviate the need to enact legislation postponing or resetting their elections, which was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in the case of Makalintal versus Commission on Elections, decided last June 27, 2023. I want to stress, Madam Speaker, that in enacting this proposed legislation, Congress is not postponing or resetting the barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections. Neither are we extending the terms of these officials, for that would be constitutionally untenable as pronounced by the Supreme Court in the Makalintal case. Instead, in this proposed legislation, Congress is fixing with definitiveness the terms of barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan officials, which, in the determination of constitutional boundaries, is a power clearly and exclusively allocated by the fundamental law to Congress. As stated in Article 10, Section 8 of the 1987 Constitution, the term of office of elective barangay officials shall be determined by law. The bill fixing the term of office of barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan officials is therefore within the constitutional prerogative of Congress. For this reason, I believe that this proposed legislation can withstand any constitutional challenge. In view of the foregoing, Madam Speaker, the approval of House Bill number 11287 by this chamber is earnestly requested. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Faustino Ino, B, the 5th of the 6th District of Isabela, to deliver his sponsorship speech.
The Honorable Faustino Ino D is recognized for his sponsorship speech.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, firstly, we have crafted this bill in accordance with the guidelines set forth by the Supreme Court in the cases of Makalintal versus Comelec and Hidalgo versus Executive Secretary. And to be clear, the Supreme Court did not prohibit the postponement of the barangay and SK elections, but merely set the criteria to be met. Kaya naman po, Mr. Speaker, masaya po ko ngayong araw at sa wakas. May pagkakataon na tayo may ayos ang term of office ng barangay officials by allowing them to serve for 6 years, limited to 2 consecutive terms, and limiting SK officials to 1 term only. Mr. Speaker, ang panukalang batas na ito ay malapit po sa akin dahil ako po ay nanilbihan dati bilang barangay chairman at naging former national president ng Liga ng mga Barangay. Kaya noong panahon po namin, noong 2018, amin ding idunulog sa Kongreso ang aming pagnanais na ipospone ng eleksyon dahil kulang ang oras upang ipatupad ng maayos ang mga proyekto at programa ng ating pamahalaan. Sa kadahilanan na sa unang taon mo bilang bagong opisyal ng barangay ay may learning period ka sa iyong trabaho at ikaw ay dadaan sa iba't ibang klaseng trainings. Bukod pa dito, maraming pondo ang ginagastos ng ating mga barangay officials para sa training ng ating mga barangay workers, kagaya ng mga BHW, BNS, barangay secretary at iba pa. Na alam naman po natin ay karaniwang napapalitan pag ibang barangay chairman na ang nagwagi sa halalan. Para po sa kalaman ng lahat, ang ginagawa ng barangay officials para sa kanilang mga komunidad ay higit pa sa mga tungkulin at responsibilidad na nakalagay sa Local Government Code at iba pang mga batas. Ito ay dahil halos lahat ng problema sa ating mga komunidad ay concern din ng mga barangay. At bukod pa rito, hindi sapat ang honorarium na kanilang natatanggap. Kaya naman sila ay tunay na mga lingkod bayan. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, countless programs and activities of the national and local governments that are crucial for nation building are cascaded to and implemented by the barangays. So, Mr. Speaker, what we've experienced in 2018 is the same situation that the newly elected barangay officials face. With their current term of office, they will only be allowed to serve for little more than 2 years. Again, we have already spent billions in the conduct of the BSKE elections. We have also spent billions to conduct trainings for new barangay officials and barangay workers throughout the country, the cost of which is charged to their already limited barangay funds. Mr. Speaker, rather than having 2 elections in a 6-year period, not only will our country save billions of pesos, but our communities will be saved from the political divisiveness that is deeply sown during election periods. So conducting barangay and SK elections on second Monday of May 2029 and every 6 years thereafter will also prevent conflict with any national or local elections until 2095. So my dear colleagues, as representatives of our districts, I'm sure that most of you are aware of the plight of our barangay officials. Many of us here will agree that most of them are true public servants who want nothing more than to serve and better their communities. However, this representation also agrees na mahabang panahon po ito para sa mga barangay officials na hindi nagtatrabaho at abusado. Totoo naman po ito. Pero, ang panahon na ito ay nararapat at sapat para sa mga opisyales na nagtatrabaho ng tapat para sa kanilang barangay at kanilang mga kabarangayan na alam kong higit na mas nakararami. So, Mr. Speaker, let's not allow a few rotten apples to spoil the bunch. There are always ways to discipline and remove erring officials in accordance with our laws. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, this bill aims to promote stability and continuity in the delivery of essential social services provided by the more than 42,000 barangays to the Filipino people. So I appeal to all of you, my dear colleagues, to support the passage of this bill, as I am confident that the barangay officials in your district will be grateful for your support. Maraming salamat po, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Ricardo S. Cruz Jr. to deliver his sponsorship speech.
The Honorable Ricardo S. Cruz Jr. from the Lone Taguig, Pateros City is recognized for sponsorship.
Madam Speaker, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I rise today to humbly ask your support for House Bill number 11287, entitled An Act Fixing the Term of Office of Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan Officials and changing their term of office from 3 years to 6 years, amending for the purpose Section 42 and 43 of Republic Act number 7160, otherwise known as the Local Government Code of 1991 as amended. This measure seeks to institute your main reforms, fix the term of office of barangay and SK officials to 6 years, synchronize the barangay and SK elections to the second Monday of May 2029, limit barangay officials to 2 consecutive terms, and limit SK officials to 1 term. This measure has garnered widespread support from various stakeholders, including barangay officials, SK representatives, and community leaders. Their insight and experiences have been instrumental in crafting a bill that addresses the realities on the ground. Their voice reflects a shared aspiration to provide our local leaders with the time and stability necessary to effect meaningful change in their communities. Having served as a barangay captain myself, I understand the challenges of a short term in office, policies that need to be institutionalized, require time, and more often than not, 3 years is simply too short This is especially true because incumbent officials are often preoccupied with the looming need to prepare for an upcoming campaign during their term. By extending the term to 6 years, not only does this ensure sufficient time for barangay and SK leaders to implement programs and deliver essential services without disruption. It also avoids overlapping with national election, giving COMELEC ample time to prepare. Moreover, we address frequent postponement of barangay and SK election, providing stability for these vital political units, which serve as the front line of governance and public service. Second, by synchronizing the barangay and SK elections to the second Monday of May, logistical issues caused by the typhoon season are reduced. Third, limiting barangay officials to 2 consecutive terms will strike a balance between continuity of leadership and the opportunity for new individuals to bring in fresh ideas and approaches to local governance. This measure aims to prevent the prolonged consolidation of power by a single individual, mitigating risk of political complacency or abuse of authority. It also aligns with democratic principles by encouraging leadership turnover while maintaining stability for a sufficient period to implement programs effectively. The limit ensures accountability and responsiveness by requiring officials to learn the trust of their constituent anew after their tenure. Lastly, the single-term limit for SK officials ensure a dynamic rotation of young leaders, allowing more individuals to gain leadership experience and contribute to community development. This measure fosters inclusivity as more youth are given the chance to serve and develop their skills in governance. Additionally, the one-term limit encourages SK officials to maximize their limited time in office to implement meaningful projects, thereby instilling a sense of urgency and responsibility in serving their peers. This is a step in the right direction. Isang reforma ito, pero madami pang reforma ang dapat gawin. We urge this 19th Congress to support this measure for a more stable, more effective, and more accountable grassroots governance system that truly serve the people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we suspend consideration of House Bill number 11287.
There's a motion. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, may we acknowledge the guest of the Honorable Edwin L. Olivares of the 1st District of Parañaque. He is from the Philippine Postal Corporation, Mr. Luis D. Carlos, Postmaster General and CEO.
To the guests of Edwin L. Olivares, a representative from the 1st District City of Parañaque, the Postmaster General and CEO Luis D. Carlos from the Philippine Postal Corporation, welcome to the House of Representatives.
House Bill number 11255, an act mandating the Philippine Postal Corporation to adopt a modernized zone improvement plan code system.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we open the period of sponsorship and debate.
There's a motion. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that the chairperson of the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization, the Honorable Edwin Olivares of the 1st District of Parañaque City, be recognized to begin sponsorship of the said measure.
The Honorable Edwin Olivares is recognized for his sponsorship.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To our honorable colleague in this 19th Congress, a pleasant afternoon to all. Currently, our country is using the 4 numerical digits zip code. One zip code may cover multiple municipalities and barangays. Hence, the supposedly basic process of deliveries from letters to parcels to balikbayan boxes sometimes ends up as a logistic nightmare. The Philippine Postal Corporation, popularly known as the PhilPost, the sole logistic arm of the government, could attest how segregation of deliveries tends to be burdensome. For this reason, through this proposed House Bill 11255, PhilPost management is proposing a modernized alphanumeric zip code, and it shall be composed of 2 alphabetic characters representing the province and 5 Arabic numerals denoting the city, municipality, and barangay. Each of the 42,011 barangays shall be assigned a unique alphanumeric zip code to ensure the new system shall allow flexibility in accommodating the creation, division, merger, or abolition of a barangay. PhilPost is directly to regularly coordinate with the Department of Interior and Local Government and other concerned government agencies. The proposed modernization zip code system shall undoubtedly bring ease and opportunities, not just with the logistic industry, but to all sectors of society. In the courier industry, it will promote accuracy in location, identification, hence reduce cost through an efficient sorting and timely delivery of mails and parcels, and even in the most remote areas. In the field of research, the system shall allow better data analysis, consequently enable faster and more organized system for administrative and even legal use. From the government's census to the private sector's business, the proposed granularized method will certainly benefit our nation as a whole. With the foregoing reasons and more, on behalf of the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization, this representation seek or move for the immediate passage of this bill. Maraming salamat, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, there being no member who wishes to interpolate the said sponsor, I move that we terminate the period of sponsorship and debate.
There's a motion. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we open the period of amendments.
There's a motion to open the period of amendments. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, there being no committee nor individual amendment, I move that we terminate the period of amendments.
There's a motion to terminate the period of amendment. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we vote on second reading House Bill number 11255.
There's a motion to vote on second reading House Bill 11255. Those who are in favor say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 11255 is approved on second reading. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we now consider House Bill number 11213 as contained in Committee Report number 1312, and may I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the said bill.
The Secretary General is directed to read the title of the House Bill.
House Bill number 11213, an act providing education pathways for basic education students and appropriating funds therefore.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we open the period of sponsorship and debate.
There's a motion. Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that the chairperson of the Committee on Basic Education and Culture, the Honorable Roman Romulo, be recognized to begin sponsorship of the said measure.
The Honorable Roman Romulo from the Lone District of Pasig City is recognized for his sponsorship.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Majority Leader. Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues, allow me to sponsor Committee Report number 1312 on House Bill number 11213, entitled An Act Providing Education Pathways for Basic Education Students and Appropriating Funds therefore. The bill declares the policy of the state to protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality education at all levels, and shall take appropriate steps to make such education accessible to all. Additionally, The bill proclaims that the state shall further establish, maintain, and support a complete, adequate, and integrated system of education relevant to the needs of the people and society. The inclusion of grades 11 and 12 in the country's basic education system was designed to prepare students for tertiary education or to provide them with the requisite skills and competencies to enter the workforce, enabling them to secure employment or establish their own businesses without the necessity of the job market, without the necessity of pursuing higher education. However, the reality of the job market has not aligned with these expectations. Despite completing senior high school, many senior high school graduates face challenges in finding employment, as the private sector continues to favor students and graduates of colleges and universities over those who have solely completed the K-12 program. A study conducted in December 2020 by the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, or the PIDS, highlighted this issue, revealing that only 1 in 5 senior high school graduates enter the labor force. The rest choose to continue their education, often realizing that employers tend to prefer applicants with higher education credentials. The study further found that senior high school graduates hold no significant advantage or disadvantage compared to grade 10 completers or second-year college students in the labor market. In addition, a 2022 Pulse Asia survey reported that 44% of Filipinos expressed dissatisfaction with the K-12 system. Given these challenges, it is imperative to establish a multiple education pathways tailored to the diverse abilities, talents, and skills of students, while fostering their potential to excel by prioritizing and cultivating their individual strengths. Students who exhibit scholastic proficiency should remain in the academe or higher learning institutions, while those possessing technical vocational skills should be afforded better opportunities to refine and develop their abilities, thereby contributing to the betterment of society. It is equally essential to align training standards with industry requirements to develop a skilled, competent workforce, thereby ensuring that individuals receive remuneration commensurate with their qualifications and expertise. Mr. Speaker, dear colleagues, it is for this reason that I respectfully present the following key provisions of the bill. First, provides that junior high school completers will have the option to choose between 2 educational pathways: the university preparatory program under the Department of Education or the technical vocational program under the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or TESDA. Mandates the TEPED to develop and implement a comprehensive curriculum for grades 11 and 12 that prepares students for college and university admissions. This curriculum should include the university preparatory pathway within its education roadmap and involve collaboration with the Commission on Higher Education, colleges, and universities to ensure alignment with college admission standards. It requires TEDSTA in partnership with industry boards, experts, practitioners, and small and medium enterprises to develop and offer a range of technical vocational programs based on an industry-driven, industry-approved curriculum that equips students with practical skills and competencies meeting current industry standards. It ensures that TESTA and its accredited technical vocational institutions maintain a sufficient number of industry partners to align the curriculum and training with the needs and standards of the labor market. Directs TESDA to prioritize enterprise-based training programs for national certification levels 3 and 4 and Philippine Qualifications Framework Level 5 to enhance learner skills and knowledge in line with industry demands while encouraging industry stakeholders to provide enterprise-based training, apprenticeship opportunities, and skills development. It provides free assessments and certifications to learners in public technical vocational institutions and TESDA-funded programs. Allows learners to take advantage of the ladderized education program, enabling them to pursue further education at colleges or universities after completing a technical vocational program and successfully qualifying under various national placement tests by the Department of Education. Authorizes DepEd and TESDA to maintain educational support programs, including scholarships for students in their respective pathways, ensuring accessibility and availability of these pathways to marginalized communities and learners. Directs TESDA, DepEd and TESDA to regularly assess and evaluate the effectiveness and quality of the respective education pathways. Mandates shed the Department of Labor, DTI, DICT, DA, DOST, NEDA, PQF, NCC, DBM, and other relevant agencies to provide necessary support and resources for the successful implementation of this act. Authorizes DepEd and TESDA to continually refine their respective curricula, ensuring they remain relevant and aligned with the current and future needs of society and industry, including emerging technology skills and workforce demands. Allocates funds for the implementation of this act to be included in the respective budgets of DepEd and TESDA in the Annual General Appropriations Act. Creates a joint congressional oversight committee. Madam Speaker, esteemed members, in a nutshell, what this multiple education pathways bill would want to happen is that at grade 10, we will hold graduation rights. We will graduate students at grade 10. Those who wish to pursue university or college will have to go through grades 11 and 12. But grades 11 and 12 will no longer have strands or tracks. All the mandatory subjects will all be the general subjects in first-year college, so that the student who wishes to pursue his college degree will already be able to get advanced placement examinations and credit those subjects, and hopefully will reduce the number of years in college by 1 year or at least 1 sem. For those who wish to use the TechVoc track, 30% of Filipinos right now use the TechVoc track. We will ask that they be under the TESDA, but with an industry-driven curriculum, meaning it is enterprise-based immediately. Iba na po talaga natututo pag skills and competencies doon sa aktual na workplace. Pag natapos po niya yung diploma course niya, maaari po siyang maging ladderized at magpatungo, dumiretso ng kolehiyo. At pagdating sa kolehiyo, hindi na siya dadaan ng grades 11 and 12. At mamaya po, hindi po nasama dito, pero hopefully ay magkakaroon ng committee amendment na sa grade 10 po ay magbibigay na rin po tayo ng honors exam. Lahat ng papasa ng honors exam na gustong pumuntang kolehiyo, pag pumasa ka ng honors exam, accelerated ka na, exempt ka na sa grades 11 and 12, and you can go straight to first-year college. With this, Madam Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I ask for the immediate approval of this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, esteemed colleagues.
Thank you. And Majority Leader?
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Gloria Macapagal Arroyo of the 2nd District of Pampanga to deliver her sponsorship speech.
The Honorable Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, representing the 2nd District of Pampanga, is recognized for sponsorship.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. With the permission of Chairman Roman Romulo, I have the honor to co-sponsor Committee Report 1312. I am the author of one of the bills consolidated in the committee report, and I would like to contribute to the account of the history of how the bill came to be. When I was about to leave the presidency in 2008-2009, I formed a presidential task force on education to review the lessons learned from our educational governance during my term of office. And one of the shortcomings of the educational system that we learned was that it was very difficult for our high school students to get into the schools required for the professional courses or to be successful in the professional courses once they got there. And this is especially true when they would try to get into the international educational system. So therefore, in order to comply with the international requirements for professional education, it was recommended by the task force headed by the esteemed Jesuit educator, Father Nebres, President of Ateneo, that there should be, for those wanting to move on to professional courses, an additional 2 years of what we called at that time pre-university education. There were discussions about 12 years mandatory basic education. Father Nebres was not in favor of that, especially if we were not going to include in it improvements in the substance of the education. He said that if we don't work on the substance of the education, we will just be lengthening bad education. And so that was the purpose, to comply with international commitments and even local board commitments for the professional courses, not to comply with just any college degree that did not require a professional license. So when it happened in the next administration that K-12 was enacted, and we have learned now from the many years that it's been carried out about all of the failings of the implementation, which Chairman Romulo already explained very well. Therefore, I am very glad that now we have this bill on the floor, and I join Chairman Romulo in asking our colleagues to pass this bill, Committee Report 1312, immediately. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Raul Daniel Manuel for his interpellation.
The Honorable Manuel is recognized for his interpellation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Magandang hapon po sa lahat. Would our sponsor yield to questions?
Yes, gladly,
This bill.
Madam Speaker, colleague.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Una, Madam Speaker, gusto ko simulan ng aking interpellation sa pagbabalik tanaw sa K-12 program. Dahil ito po talaga ay isang malaki at mabigat na usapin para sa mga kabataan, lalo po yung mga dumaan dito. To start, Madam Speaker, maraming mga kabataan talaga, I can't count the number of times na ang nababagit po sa atin. Ang feeling po nila ay napag-eksperimentohan po sila nung nangyaring K-12 program. Halimbawa, Madam Speaker, dahil daw 12 years ang basic education sa ibang mga bansa, dapat ganun din yung exact number na gawin sa atin. Pero I'd like to recall, Madam Speaker, tama po ba sa ating mga committee hearing doon lumitaw na hindi naman pala kalakhan ng mga bansa sa mundo ay 12 years yung kanilang basic education. Am I correct, Madam Speaker?
That is correct, Madam Speaker. In fact, based on the in general, K-12, most of the educational systems have K-12, but there are also first world countries that did not even exactly have the K-12 program. So in that respect, it is correct, Honorable Manuel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Also, regarding college preparation, dahil ang bagit ng K-12 program, when we have a mandated senior high school program, magiging mas handa raw ang ating mga senior high school finishers kapag pumasok sa kolehiyo. Pero in also several instances, Madam Speaker, ay halimbawa may mga subjects na tinake na ng senior high, pero pagpapasok na sa kolehiyo ay uulitin o parang almost the same variant lang din ng mga subjects na nakuha ng senior high yung ipapakuha sa college. May mga pagkakataon din, Madam Speaker, na supposedly with the senior high school program pipili ng strand or track. Pero kapag papasok sa kolehiyo, dahil hindi din naman pala mandated na kung ano yung track or strand na kinuha, yun din yung iti-take na course sa kolehiyo. So parang hindi rin nakita ng mga estudyante yung sense bakit sila nag-senior high school. So with that, Madam Speaker, ay meron po bang maidudulot na remedy or ano po ba ang magiging bago kapag maging batas po itong House Bill 11213?
Yes. Honorable Manuel, first allow me to clarify my earlier response. In other jurisdictions, grades 11 and 12 are not mandatory. Pero meron din silang 11 and 12. The same model that we are espousing in this very bill. But now, with respect po to your question, tama po yung binabanggit po ninyo. Sa totoo, gusto ko lang magdagdag sa sinabi ni Honorable Manuel. Sa totoo, sa kasalukuyan kasi ngayon, merong 4 na track: sports, arts and design, tech voc, at academic. Pagdating mo pa sa academic, meron pang strands. Hindi po pag pumasok ka ng academic track, pare-pareho kayo. May iba-ibang strand pa po. Kaya yung sinasabi ni Honorable Manuel, Madam Speaker, is correct. Kasi meron po mga colleges and university, kung hindi ka pumasok ng STEM na strand, hindi ka pwede mag-engineering. Pwede ka mag-engineering, pero magbe-bridging programs ka pa po. So, kaysa umikse, humaba pa po. Imagine po, grade 10, pinapapili na natin yung estudyante kung ano yung college degree niya na gusto. Kaya nga sinasabi natin, sa question ni Honorable Manuel, ano maidudulot ng proposal na ito? Sa proposal po na ito, sinasabi natin, wala ng tracks, wala ng strands. Ang mandatory subject lang ay yung general subjects sa first year college. Ano po yun? Example, History 1, English 1. Kung ano yung mga general subjects, bakit natin gusto yung general subjects na yun? Unang-una, ay makakapagbigay po siya ng masisigurado natin na masistrengthen yung tinatawag na functional literacy ng ating mag-aaral. Yung reading comprehension, mathematics niya, and sciences po, a few subjects, yung general subjects, will be able to strengthen that in 11 and 12. Tapos, pagdating niya ng first year college, kung merong advanced placement, yung college, karamihan naman po meron eh. Kung pwedeng i-credit na yung English 1 na kinuha niya sa grade 11, yung English 2 na kinuha niya sa grade 12, yung History 1 na kinuha niya sa grade 11, yung History 2, o kung ano man, para pagdating ng kolehiyo, credited na lahat yun. So, mababawasan po yung number of years na sa kolehiyo. At, of course po, may electives pa rin. We will still give them that option na may electives. Kasi sa totoo, Madam Speaker, eto naman, talagang pinaglalaban na matagal ni Congresswoman Franz to at saka ni Honorable Manuel. Sa totoo, nawala ang Philippine history. So I think we should be able to put that back in place. Kasi that's part of the general subjects. Lagi natin pinag-uusapan, Honorable Manuel, si Honorable Castro, ito yung isang passion niya, yung tungkol sa nationalism. Kung nationalism pinag-uusapan, bakit tinanggal ng K-12 ang Philippine history? So dito po, mababalik po natin, kung nationalism rin ang pinahanap natin, makakatulong siya at makikredit po siya. Hopefully makikredit siya pagdating niya ng first year college.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. With that, para po mas maging malinaw po sa ating mga kababayan, if we compare yung itsura ng senior high school ngayon na grades 11 and 12, as compared po sa pinapanukalan nitong House Bill 11213 na, di ba po, hindi na magiging mandatory yung grades 11 and 12, depende na lang dun sa estudyante. So ano na po ang magiging pagkakaiba dun sa curriculum ng mga estudyante ngayon and in the future if ever this bill will become a law?
Para maliwanag rin po tayo, pagdating ng grade 10, ang sinasabi natin, may graduation ang lahat ng estudyante. Pagtapos ng grade 10, doon na po pipili ngayon yung estudyante. Ano ba ang gusto ko? Right now, sa 100% ng senior citizens natin, more or less, between 65 to 69% enter the academic track. Sa Tech Voc track, we reached a high of 36% ang nag-enroll sa TechVoc track. Pero siguro nga po, dahil NC2 lang ang nabibigay doon, dahil hindi naman siya industry-driven curriculum, ay bumaba na po yun. Nag-umpisa tayo, first year of implementation, 36% nag-TechVoc track. Ngayon po, nasa 29% na lang. Yung dalawang ibang track, minsan di umaabot ng 1% eh. Kasi sa totoo, yung karera. So pagka-graduate mo ng grade 10, pili ka na. Gusto ko bang magkolehiyo o hindi? O gusto ko ba yung TechVoc track? Kung pipiliin mo ang kolehiyo, kailangan ka mag-grades 11 and 12, pero yung curriculum mo sa 11 and 12 will now be manageable, reduced to the mandatorily to the general subjects in first year college. Kung gusto mo mag-TechVoc, pupunta ka naman po sa tinatawag naming industry-driven curriculum, approved by the industry boards, but regulated by the TESDA. Pero, may addition po kaming gustong isama, at mamaya po ay siguro kasama sa committee amendments. Pag-graduate mo ng grade 10, ang bawat estudyante na gustong kumuha ng tinatawag na honors exam, pwede siyang kumuha nun. Pag pinasa po niya yun, accelerated po siya. Pwede na siyang dumiretso ng first year college, hindi na siya kailangan dumaan ng grades 11 and 12. Again po, nabanggit rin po kanina, may mga international commitments or whatever na yung grade 11 and 12. Hindi po natin tinatanggal yung commitment na yan. Nandiyan pa yan. Pero ina-accelerate natin yung mga gustong pumuntang kolehiyo at binibigyan natin ng iba pang pathway yung iba. Kasi importante na rin po talaga yung TechVoc. Pero yung TechVoc na pinoprovide natin ngayon, Honorable Manuel, alam mo yun, ang binibigay natin, karamihan, NC2. Pag nagtapos ka ng grade 12 TechVoc track, ang binibigay natin, NC2. Ano ibig sabihin ng NC2? Sa ilalim ng Philippine Qualifications Framework, ang NC2, novice. Maliwanag na kasulat, tayo po nagsulat nun. Pilipinas yung nagsulat ng PQF. Nakalagay doon, pag NC2 ka lang, kailangan mo pa rin ng guidance. Hindi ka pa rin expert. Kailangan may sumusubaybay sa ginagawa mo. Novice ka lang. Imagine, pinangako natin sa estudyante, mag-grade 11 and 12 ka. Pag-graduate mo, either job ready ka or college ready. Sa pareho po, mukhang nagkulang tayo. Yung pa lamang sa NC2 na binibigay natin. Karamihan po NC2. That is why gusto natin, industry-driven curriculum, enterprise-based. Of course, mayroon pa rin dyan functional literacy para masigurado natin, umabot naman siya NC3, NC4, or PQ5. Pag dumating ka po ng NC4, diploma na po yun. Under our ladderized education law, which we passed in 2014, you can go straight to college under the ladderized education program.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. Hearing that response, dahil ang mangyayari na ay yung mga gustong magkolehiyo eventually, sila na lang yung kinakailangan na mag-take ng 2 years na pre-university program. Hearing that, Madam Speaker, as youth representative, well, I have to be honest na sa ngayon po, kung ganun ang magiging itsura, ang magiging default po talaga na pagtingin dyan ng ating mga kabataan ay habang meron po tayong mga pinapangako na mga pag-aayos din naman, pero kung sa bilang ng taon na kukunin nila, parang ganun pa rin ang mangyayari as compared sa ngayon. So, when I heard, Madam Speaker, yung tungkol dun sa possibility na halimbawa may paraan para ma-exempt, gusto ko magpalalim po dyan, Madam Speaker, ano po yung itsura po nun?
Again po, no, yung honors exam, ipapaubaya po natin yan sa DepEd at sa CHED and the universities and colleges. Because sila po ang makakapagsabi kung ano yung competencies, kung ano yung kinakailangan ng isang learner para makalakbay siya ng 4 years o 3 years o 5 years sa kolehiyo. Siguro po, Honorable Manuel, we can both agree that we should leave that to the experts. Hindi naman po para sa policymakers dahil mas may dalubhasa sa atin. Let us give them the general framework na may honors exam, but let us leave it to the experts to be able to formulate ano yung honors exam po na yan. And again, Honorable Manuel, in a way, tama rin po kayo. In terms of length, nandun pa rin yung 11 and 12. Totoo yan. Pero, sa isang banda, hindi na po siya magiging Una, as unfair as it is now, because right now, napakaraming tracks, napakaraming strands. Tapos, katulad ng binanggit ko kanina, Honorable Manuel, marami sa ating mga kapwa Pilipino, gusto nga nila maging ininyero. Pero kung hindi ka nag-STEM, strand, meron kang additional na bridging subjects na pinapagawa ng ibang universities and colleges. So instead na pinaiksi natin, pinahaba natin, pero dito, sa sinasabi natin, unang-una, hindi man natin napaiksi yung basic education, pero since ang laman po ng 11 and 12 ay yung general education subjects, mababawasan natin yung first year college subjects at mababawasan yung taon niya sa kolehiyo. Doon naman po tayo makakatulong sa pamilyang Pilipino. Pero sana rin po maintindihan natin, especially in light of the international assessment exams, our own assessment exams, for now, maganda pa rin po talaga na masigurado natin yung functional literacy. Talagang meron talagang meron tayo po nagkulang sa kabataang Pilipino. Ito yung pagkakataon natin na baka pag-focus tayo hanggang grade 12, doon tayo sa functional literacy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Kasunod po tungkol naman sa paghanda para sa trabaho dahil isa rin ito sa mga nakikita nating naging well, we can call it a failure ng K-12 program. Pinangako yung pwedeng maging college ready, job ready, or meron pa nga maghanda para magnegosyo, ganyan. Pero it's sad, Madam Speaker, na ayun, inabot tayo ng ilang taon, no? Hanggang sa finally, no, ay na-realize natin na yung original na gustong mangyari ng K-12 when passed many years ago ay hindi naman pala nagbunga. And at least, Madam Speaker, na-acknowledge po ito, no, sa committee natin on basic education. Kaya ngayon ay meron tayong pinag-uusapan na ganito. Ano yung mga pwedeng pag-aayos natin. So kung dun sa job preparedness, Madam Speaker, ano po ba yung mga binanggit na dahilan or often cited na mga reasons bakit hindi nag-employ yung maraming mga kumpanya nung mga nagtapos naman na ng senior high school?
Una po, doon tayo sa functional literacy. Kaya kailangan talagang palakasin yun. At sinabi natin, kahit mag-tech voc track ka, ibig sabihin sa TESDA ka na industry-driven, ay sisiguraduhin po natin na meron pa rin functional literacy courses po doon. And required naman po siya until now. But of course, mas maiksi na. Pangalawa po, ang binibigay po natin, pag-graduate, nabanggit ko po ito kanina, ang binibigay po ng TESDA, pag-graduate ng grade 12 ng mga nasa tech voc track, karamihan po, NC2. Yun ang totoo. Karamihan NC2. Pag tinignan po natin ang ibig sabihin ng NC2, sa ilalim ng sarili nating Philippine Qualifications Framework na ang gumawa, NEDA, DepEd, sila rin po gumawa eh. TESDA. Pag tinignan po ang ibig sabihin sa Philippine Qualifications Framework ng NC2 na binibigay natin sa grade 12 Tech Voc graduate, hindi novice pa rin. Nakasulat po doon na kailangan subaybayan pa rin siya sa trabaho niya. Hindi siya considered na expert na sa ginagawa niya. Sa proposal po natin, gusto natin industry-based curriculum, approved by the industry boards, at enterprise-based na siya. Meaning, makaka-immersion ka na kaagad sa iyong eskwelahan, sa industriya. Para kasi ang skills po, ang pag-acquire ng skills, ang sabi po sa atin sa committee, kung maalala mo, Honorable Manuel, karamihan dyan, it's practice, practice, practice eh. Talagang kailangan ginagawa mo eh, para matutunan mo yung competency, para mag-graduate ka to higher levels of competencies. Gusto natin, at nakasaad ng malinaw po sa bill na ito, umabot NC3, NC4, at PQ5. Pero NC4 po, sapat na po yan dahil diploma course yan. At diploma degree na rin po yan. At diploma po makukuha mo dyan under the Ladderized Education Law which we passed in 2014 ay makakaano ka na rin po, makakadiretso ka na ng kolehiyo.
Madam Speaker, it was mentioned by our sponsor na ang gusto talaga nating mangyari sa curriculum natin sa basic education, ito ay industry-driven and industry-approved. No? Yung curriculum niya ay batay dun sa ano yung demands ng mga kumpanya. Gusto ko mag-delve doon, Madam Speaker, dahil sa isang banda, edi nandyan din yung purpose ng education na syempre kapag merong diploma, nagtapos yung isang estudyante, ibig sabihin ay meron siyang credential na magagamit niya para magkaroon ng trabaho. Pero going beyond that, Madam Speaker, ay nandyan din ang kumbaga mas malawak pa na function ng edukasyon na ibig sabihin, lalo sa basic education, doon natin ini-instill sa ating mga kabataan yung paano ba dapat sila maging mabuting tao, yung mga values, yung paano sila maging responsible na citizen din ng bansa natin. I'd like to raise this concern, Madam Speaker, na paano natin safeguard yung ating curriculum sa tendency niya na ang mas nagsiset na talaga ng direction ay yung mga kumpanya. In the sense na, kasi if they are the ones who would be able to have a big say in what skills are considered to be in or marketable or in demand, pwedeng masakripisyo, Madam Speaker, yung ibang mga aspects naman ng edukasyon na ang layunin ay hindi lang basta mapagraduate at ma-ensure yung trabaho ng ating mga kabataan, pero ma-mold din sila bilang mga mabuting tao at mabuting mga kababayan. So, paano natin titiyakin na yung isang curriculum na industry-driven, industry-approved, hindi po siya natatangay ng kung ano lang yung in-demand sa merkado?
Yes. Honorable Manuel, yung purpose, yung layunin ng batas ng bill na ito, the purpose of the bill is really to modify grades 11 and 12, tech voc track and academic track. Ibig sabihin, yung K to 10 will remain in its present state with its curriculum. Kung maalala po natin, nung 18th Congress, pinasa po natin dito ang tinatawag na GMRC law, yung Good Manners and Right Conduct. Doon po sa batas na yon, minandato natin na from K to 6, dapat independent subject ang good manners and right conduct. Diyan po kasama rin po dyan yung pagmamahal rin po o nationalism, pagmamahal sa bayan. Pagdating ng 7, 8, 9, 10, values education will be integrated into subjects. So yung basic po, ang magsa-start po ang K, sabihin natin 5 to 6 years old. Hanggang grade 10, hanggang 15 to 16 years old po yun. 15 more or less, hanggang 15 yun. So yung minomodify na ng bill na to, ito na po yung dinagdag ng 11 and 12 under the K to 12 law. Ito na po yung either magtatrabaho ka, skilled worker ka, ang gusto mo, magiging athlete ka, magiging sa artist ka, or magiging academe ka. Yun na lang po, yung last two po na taon. In addition, as mentioned earlier, by the time umabot po siya ng 15 to 16 years old, siguro po yung halos 10 taon na GMRC and values education integrated into subjects would be sufficient enough to mold the character of our learners. And equally important is also to mold their, to enable them to strengthen their nationalism. Kasi yung GMRC naman po kasama na rin po talaga doon eh. In fact, maliwanag sa batas natin na hindi po siya merely theoretical eh. As much as possible, let us not reinvent the wheel. Yun ang nilagay naman po natin doon. Let us apply it factually para talagang yung best practices, gayahin rin po natin. Importante po, nandoon naman po yung GMRC.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I can't help but really point that out, lalo na't nung pinasa po yung K-12 program, nung mga panahon po na yon, tayo ay college student na. Well, fortunately, personally, hindi ko po napagdaanan yung ganong naranasan nung mga sumunod na mga generation ng mga kabataan. Pero nonetheless, Madam Speaker, I really sympathize with them. Lalo na't yung naging dominant din po kasing narrative at that time ay yun, kahit hindi mag-college, basta nagtapos ng senior high, kasi ang mahalaga lang naman kapag gumraduate na ay makapagtrabaho. Parang yung narrative po nun, Madam Speaker, ni-reduce yung function ng edukasyon na para lang siya maging mas madali yung paghahanap lang ng trabaho, to the point na kung walang trabaho dito sa atin, edi let's fine-tune yung edukasyon natin para madaling makapag-abroad yung ating mga kabataan. So, doon pa lang, Madam Speaker, sa ganong rational nung K-12 program, nung pinasa po siya bilang batas, doon pa lang nakita na natin merong problema. Kaya magkakaroon din po ng dangers, if ever, na yung maging justifications din for whatever changes in the curriculum ay magfa-follow din sa ganong consistent na narrative. Kaya kailangan po talaga, pag sinabi nating pinag-aaral natin yung ating mga kabataan, ang rason po niyan ay hindi lang basta-basta na meron lang silang trabaho right afterwards. Kailangan din talaga yung mga kabataan natin, lalo syempre pagpapasok sa trabaho, kung mga kumpanya ang gugustuhin po nila actually ay mga kabataan na hindi okay yung reading comprehension. Kasi for example, kung okay yung reading comprehension nila, may mga kontrata na unfair pala para sa kanila, mabubusisi nila. Tapos yung mga skills din like for example, analyzing past events, ganyan, na kung may kumpanya na merong mga bad practices, gugustuhin niya yung mga kabataang hindi marunong balikan yung practices ng kanilang mga kumpanya para hindi sila marunong magtanong, susunod na lang sila. So, gusto natin talaga ng shift or alternative dun sa what kinds of students do we produce from our basic education system. Kaya, in line with that, Madam Speaker, since dito sa education pathways, gagawa niya ng distinction. Merong mga kabataang mas magpo-focus doon sa scholastic ability, magpo-proceed sa pre-university tsaka sa university level. Meron po magpo-proceed doon sa technical, vocational na track. So, ano po yung magiging mga batayan para ma-distinguish po natin yung mga estudyante na magtitake ng ganong track, while at the same time, yung core functions ng education, hindi po nawawala dapat doon sa dalawa?
Unang-una, agree po tayo kay Honorable Manuel. Ayaw na po natin na mag-educate tayo o mag-training na tayo para mag-ibang bansa. Kasalukuyan po. Kasi sa totoo, hindi naman siya industry-based curriculum ngayon. Hindi po siya base sa mga industriya na nandito na sa Pilipinas. Karamihan po nga kung titingnan natin, marami nga dyan, sa totoo ay nag-work po dun sa mga HRM, di ba? Karamihan, yun ang pinasok nila sa hotel, di ba? Yun, which again, meron dito, meron abroad. Sa ating proposal po, it will be really enterprise-based, industry-driven curriculum. Ibig sabihin, kailangan may industriya dito. Kailangan may existing na industriya sa Pilipinas at mulat yung learner. Pag pinili niya yung tech-voc track na ito yung gusto niya na industriya, it will also help us and of course, our economic managers to finally take a look at manufacturing the Philippines, take a look at our industries in the Philippines. Hindi naman po tayo pwedeng import nation lang talaga. Pero pag meron po tayo, kasi ito po, it has to be enterprise-based, industry-driven curriculum. Hindi naman po ito sa abroad magti-training. Dito po magti-training. Kailangan may enterprise. Kailangan may industriya. At yung competencies po niya, maliwanag tayo. We have to go to NC3, NC4, at level 5. Hindi po katulad ngayon. Sa totoo po, Honorable Manuel, meron kang makikita ng mga survey ngayon Well, hindi naman ngayon, the past few years, na nagsasabi na hindi, yung mga graduates natin ng senior high school, mas tinatanggap ngayon ng industriya. In fact, para marami silang ina-hire. But the question we asked in the committee and in EDCOM 2, ano yung trabaho na binibigay sa kanila? Karamihan po doon would really be waiters, cooks. So hindi mo na kailangan ng 11 and 12. Kung ay bibigay lang ng Estado, ay hanggang NC2, bakit pa natin pinapagod ang mga aral, ang pamilya hanggang grade 12? That is why we want the competencies to level up because we want them to be able to find jobs which will be able to help them sustain themselves and their families. Hindi po lahat dapat, hindi naman dapat blue-collar jobs lang. Kung ganun lang po, tama kayo. Ba't pa tayo nag-K-12? Ba't pa tayo nag-tech-voc track? Kung mauuwi lang rin po pala, ay a grade 10 graduate would be able to get the same opportunity. That is why linilevel up po natin yung competencies.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. Now, since meron pong ganitong pathways na ipoprovide ang House Bill 11213, may isang concern lang din tayo, Madam Speaker, dahil sa ngayon, lalo na yung mga state universities naman natin ay may kinakaharap din ng mga, halimbawa, constraints sa kanilang enrollment, ganyan. Tapos sa mga private schools, meron din on their part, meron ding kahirapan sa paano sila mag-ensure din ng kanilang enrollees given that they charge fees, ganyan. Tapos hindi naman lahat nakakapag-accommodate ng maraming gusto magkolehiyo. Paano lang natin i-avoid yung scenario, Madam Speaker, na dahil ayaw nating ma-overcrowd yung higher education, ay yung maging way out natin ay i-discourage yung mga kabataan na mag-proceed sa higher education at ang i-take na lamang na pathway ay yung pag-take ng TechVoc kahit na on their own, mas prefer pa rin halimbawa ng isang estudyante na magpatuloy pa rin hanggang kolehiyo.
Actually, kung titingnan ang datos, halos 69%, yun yung maximum, hanggang ngayon po, na dumidiretso ng kolehiyo. Yung 26 to 36, 29 to 36% na nagte-TechVoc, sa totoo po, tingin ko, alam naman nila rin kasi yung kahalagahan. Pero, kahit mag-TechVoc ka nga, under this proposal, you still have a pathway without going to 11 and 12 anymore. Makakapunta ka rin ng kolehiyo using this pathway. Pangatlo, noong 2014 o 2015, pinasa rin po natin yung Open Distance Learning Act for tertiary education. Again po, much is to be desired rin sa implementation nun. But at least, nandun na rin po yung infrastructure nun. Again, minodel naman po natin yung Open Distance Learning natin after the PUP and the UP model. Pareho po natin, modelong yun ang ginamit po natin nung free-name natin yung Open Distance Learning Act noong 2014 o 2015. Again, tingin ko naman po, ang Pilipino, lalo na ang mga kabataan Pilipino, matatalino naman. Alam nila kung ano yung gusto nila and they will find a way to get there. Kung kolehiyo, aabutin nila yun. Pero yung may gusto rin po na makapagtrabaho muna bago magkolehiyo, kasi po under the enterprise-based system, sa totoo may allowance rin po sila while they are going through that 11 and 12. Meron na rin silang allowances na kinikita po doon. Kasi hindi pa naman sila of age noon eh. Pero meron na rin po silang allowances na nakukuha. At least yun will also help financially yung, at makakatulong yun sa direksyon nila papuntang kolehiyo. So again po, we are not shutting out, and that's why multiple education pathways po siya. We are just providing every Filipino with various pathways in order for them to attain whatever they desire, a college degree or a TechVoc, higher TechVoc skill levels.
Okay. Hearing all those responses, Madam Speaker, I have no further questions sa ating sponsor, and we thank him for providing yung mga tugon doon sa maraming mga hinaing talaga na ating mga kabataan sa layunin na mabago po natin yung mga dapat na mabago doon sa sistema ng ating edukasyon. Lalo na't gusto natin na maging investment, no? Yung pag-ensure natin ng quality and accessible education para sa mga kabataan Pilipino. Yun lang, Madam Speaker. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Honorable Manuel. And as we always say, kahit sa committee po, lahat naman ng sinasabi ni Honorable Manuel, ni Honorable Castro ay napakalaking tulong, hindi naman po para sa mga bills lang natin, pero lalong-lalo na for the education system sa kabataang Pilipino at sa ating mga guro. Maraming salamat, Honorable Manuel.